Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. Sometimes everything collapses not in pieces, but all at once. You lose your job. You are betrayed. Meaning disappears. The person you trusted more than yourself pretends they don't know you. Projects you put your heart into fall apart in seconds, as if someone pulled the rug out from under your feet and you are falling. And it doesn't matter whether you were good or bad. You could have been the kindest, the most loyal. You could have done everything right, tried to please, tried to save. And still this moment comes. The moment when you are left alone. You sit in the middle of this emptiness. The world that was clear and predictable just yesterday now feels blurred. Everything that was an anchor no longer holds. You had a map, you had a plan, you had logic. You knew how this world worked, or you thought you did. And now there is nothing, no landmarks, no understanding of where you are, no idea where to go next. You just sit in silence in this deaf stillness as if the universe turned the sound off, as if all the answers were crossed out. You search inside yourself, and there is a blank page. Not even pain, not even fear, just emptiness. And you catch yourself thinking, maybe I broke something. Maybe something is wrong with me. Why did everything disappear so abruptly, as if someone pressed a button? You look at those around you and it feels like they are still living in their own movie. Their story continues, they have lines, they have plans. And you have no script. As if you were thrown out of the system, out of the matrix. And now you are just an observer. You still hope. You still want to bring everything back. You cling to old connections, trying to fix what is already dead. But the harder you pull on the threads of the past, the more it falls apart in your hands. And at some point you stop. You just sit and let go. And exactly at that moment something happens. Quietly, not immediately. Deep inside your inner self, a new life begins to move. Different. One that didn't exist before. You don't know yet what it is. You don't feel confident yet. But you know for sure, the old version of you no longer exists. You don't immediately notice the moment when a crack appears in this emptiness. At first, it's just a slight shift, as if something inside you stirred, as if in the deepest darkness someone quietly struck a match. It's not an answer. It's not salvation. But for the first time in a long while, you feel something. It can be a random thought, a dream, a word from a stranger, a line in a movie. Or simply a moment when you're walking down the street and suddenly feel the smell of rain the way you haven't felt it in 10 years. And you understand, you're not dead. You're still alive. You can still be put back together. But differently. The old patterns no longer work. You no longer believe in should, and this is how it's right. You don't have the strength to pretend that you're interested in what has long been dead. But inside, a new need appears. Not just to survive, but to understand why all of this happened, why everything collapsed this way, why it happened to you, why at this exact moment. And then, for the first time, you look inward, not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself, without roles, without I'm strong or I control everything. You simply look into the mirror and suddenly realize that you are seeing your true self for the first time in your life. And in this crack, in this first gap between the past and the future, light begins to flow. Slowly, unevenly, uncertainly. But it is there. You still don't know where to go. But you no longer want to go back. After pain comes silence. After silence comes the first question. Who am I now? You are no longer who you were. All the roles you were used to burned down in the fire of your old life. And you stand on the ruins like someone who no longer knows what they are supposed to do, and more importantly, no longer wants to do what they did before. You no longer want to be convenient. You no longer want to play. You no longer want to live in someone else's script. You want to be yourself. But who that yourself is, you don't know. You begin to look not for a path, but for resonance. You no longer believe in instructions. You don't need advice. You need feelings. You try new things. You listen to yourself. For the first time, you allow yourself not to know, not to be able, not to be certain, and it doesn't destroy you. It brings you to life. You choose yourself, not the old one with habits, but the new one, the one who doesn't speak confidently yet, but already sees differently, the one who no longer endures, no longer agrees, no longer keeps up appearances, but simply follows their true inner impulse. And that's when magic begins. Not the kind with fireworks. Quiet, deep, elusive. You say no to someone, and the sky becomes clearer. You stop answering other people's expectations, and energy appears. You stay silent where you used to argue, and suddenly you hear life breathing. This is awakening. Not a moment of enlightenment, but a series of small refusals of lies. You simply remove everything that is no longer yours. And in that space, the real is born. You walk blindly. It's not as painful anymore, but it's still empty. You don't know where the road leads, but suddenly you notice something has changed slightly. Not around you, inside you. You no longer fight. You no longer want to return to the past. You simply breathe and don't collapse. You walk and your legs don't shake. You look, and for the first time in a long time you see. Not a plan, not a scheme, not a goal, but space. Free, quiet, alive. Something has let go. The world hasn't become better, but you have become different. Pain no longer controls you. The past no longer grips your throat. The future no longer presses with its weight. It's as if you've been freed from attachments, and now you hear what was always there, but used to drown in the noise of anxiety. Silence, nuances, subtle sensations. You notice that coincidences become meaningful, that there is depth in people's voices, that food tastes better, that music touches you again with goosebumps. You return to yourself. There is no great meaning yet, no global goal, no 5-year plan. But there is the main thing, the feeling that life is moving again, that a navigator has switched on inside you, one you didn't even know existed. You don't know where it leads, but now you're not afraid to go. When everything was just collapsing, you dreamed of bringing the past back. Now you understand, that would have been a punishment. You have changed, and even if everything were returned, you would no longer fit there. The old has become too tight for you, as if you wore someone else's clothes for a long time, comfortable, familiar, proper. But one day they started burning your skin, and you finally realized it wasn't your size. Now you are, in a way, naked, vulnerable, but free. You look back and don't recognize yourself. The one who endured, the one who stayed silent, the one who lived for others, the one who was afraid, is gone. In their place is you. New. The one who looks reality in the eyes and no longer hides. You didn't become a superhuman, but you became yourself. And there is more power in that than in any armor. Old connections fade away. Old goals dissolve. You no longer want things the way you used to. Now you want differently. For real. Honestly. You are no longer ready to live in illusion. You no longer seek comfort. You seek truth. You seek yourself. And that is your true point of no return. The moment when you didn't just survive the fall, but came out of it awakened. Now, when everything has settled, you stand on a new shore. Behind you is the storm. In front of you is silence. Not emptiness, space. A blank page where you choose what comes next. You no longer rush. You no longer thrash about. You breathe. And for the first time in a long while, you feel that you don't need anything to be okay. You didn't become perfect. You became alive. You still have scars, but they remind you that you are no longer the one who fell. You are the one who got back up. You take with you not resentment but awareness, not fear but sensitivity, not defense but wisdom, not a mask but a face. You know that what's ahead will be different. But now you have support, not external, internal. You have become someone who can be light even in complete darkness, and if a storm comes again, you won't fall the same way, because you know who you are, and that is what matters most. Thanks for being here on the channel. See you in the next video. Bye, everyone.